Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out GITGUDRacing.com, where I'm offering the most accessible coaching sessions on the market.
Now for the track guide. Turn 1, high speed corner. You really want to get this right because it's super easy to take an off track, or it's super easy to just lose a lot of time if you're too cautious. What I'm using in the Hotlap at least is this white and blue curb. I'm climbing over it as much as I can to the point that the antenna almost covers the beginning of the curb, the right side, and the left tire is almost touching the grass. So we want to really open up as much as possible, and I just turn, lift, and the slide brake, and I'm trying to do the smallest speed possible. So while I'm at the 50, I'm doing the turn in, and notice that I do the lift after the car already starts to point. That's super important because you want to maximize the downforce of the car. You want your car to turn as much as possible, and in high speed this means doing the lift or the brake after the initial turn, because the common mistake is often to brake and turn at the same time, but this doesn't work for high speed corners. You really want to carry the downforce to make the most of the aero package. So doing the lift at the same time, a bit of brake. You see at this point I have 3% brake and I'm on the process of doing the lift, and I just do the lift to 0 or close to 0 and then straight back up. At this point, even though I'm not here at the apex, I'm already at this at throttle, and I'm already pressing it because this is the rotation point of the corner. So all the rotation is generated around here, and from here we just want a good exit. If you're gonna push the rotation point at the apex, it's gonna be way too late. You're gonna lose time. So the smallest possible lift in this corner is gonna depend on the track conditions, it's gonna depend on the setup, but the idea is the same. You want to push yourself so that this lift will be as small as possible. And don't be afraid to add just a bit of brakes. If you're gonna add under 10% braking, you won't overslow the car. You will just give the front tires a bit of edge to have some more grip to point. Now, at the apex, I'm already on 100% throttle and I'm already releasing the brake. So this was the approach. It's not gonna be consistent. I pushed way too much. So for a hot lap, it works. You see, previously I had some off tracks, if you're gonna look above. So I tried a couple of times with the active resets to get it right. So definitely a bit harder to be this early on throttle. However, this is gonna be the ideal way of doing it, and you should try to get as close as you can to this without picking it. Speaking on the off track, it's quite hard to say where the off track limit is, since this was not an off track, even though I get pushed a lot to the left side. You see, I'm not picking up the off track. I think the off track limit seems to be in regards with the green curb and the antenna, because right now my antenna is still touching the green around here. Even when it goes a bit more to the left, it touched the green. So I think the moment that the antenna is past this green on the tarmac, then it's gonna be an off track, but I'm not 100% sure. Moving on with the next corner, I'm using the 100-meter board as a reference for braking. I'm braking at the 100, and it's super important to be early on throttle here because this is a huge straight, and I'm a bit under the limit in this corner. If you're gonna play the hot lap and you're gonna listen for the tires, you're gonna know that I'm under the limit in this corner. Far from a perfect lap. This is not a track that I raced too much, so it wasn't that easy to do a good lap. However, you just want to be at this point, you want to cut as much as possible to the point that you're almost hitting the red sausage curve, and at this point you should be already on throttle. See, in my lap right now I'm not on throttle. This is a mistake. You should be as early as you can on throttle, same as turn 1, because this is a big straight, and if you delay it just by 2-3 meters, it's gonna it's gonna mean probably half a tenth or 1/10. So I'm on throttle just about here, which is way too late. So try to be a bit earlier on throttle. Cut this curb so you will still be flat out. And right now it's just about making the least amount of steering angle possible to turn. Going into the hairpin, I'm looking at the 100 while I'm approaching it. However, I did some mistakes here again, so you should try to go a bit more to the left side. I don't know why I didn't do it, but you can brake on this curb, at least until they will introduce 3D curbs on this track as well, because if you're gonna brake on this curb, you're not gonna lose traction. I just remember that in previous season I used to brake on this curb, but right now I see that I'm not doing it. So for sure I would try to brake on this curb and see if opening up the corner with one tire width can make a difference. I think it will. I'm looking at 100 to brake, and I'm braking slightly past it. If you're gonna brake at 100, it's gonna be way too early. I tried it because you're gonna peak quite high initially, so I'm picking 82 and then quickly easing off the brakes. The brake shape should look like a triangle, or at least something like a triangle, and you want to cut this apex. The apex is gonna be the middle of this white and blue curve. You want to go around it but still touch it with your tires. But in my case, I didn't have enough rotation to be on throttle, so at this point I'm understeering and I'm waiting for the car to turn. So ideally I would have wanted to be on throttle early. See this little gap that I have in my inputs, that's not good. You can try to go with the car a bit deeper into the corner and then be early on throttle. Maybe it's gonna be better. I think in this corner keeping a tight line is not that bad, so cutting here is not bad, but you should rotate it more before. So I lost some rotation around here, around this point, and it probably has to do with the brake release. It's a bit tough. It's not an easy corner, but you definitely want to be at this point on throttle. You definitely want it because what's happening. See, the next corner is again flat out, so you can be even earlier on throttle or your throttle to be more vertical. So you see I have this time to build up. If it's gonna be a bit more vertical like this, it's still gonna be going into the next corner flat out, keeping a tight line on the right side, and then I'm using as a reference for braking the beginning of this exit road on the right side. I'm braking at the beginning of it. I'm picking quite hard, and I want to bring my car as close as I can to this red sausage curb without touching it, and then to be back on throttle. But again, I'm braking a bit late here, or I'm dropping the brakes a bit too much in this part. One of the two, because at this point I want to be on throttle, but I have to wait again because the car is not turned enough. So I'm a bit understeering at this point, too much steering angle, and then I go back on throttle. So subtle differences, but it adds up. So 1/10 here, 1/10 there, could have been like a 3/10 better lap just by being a bit earlier on throttle. Keep that in mind. And now in this part, you don't want to be, so the exit of this corner, you should avoid to be more on the right side around here. If you're gonna find that you end up more on the green or on the curb, you're losing way too much time in the next corner because you won't have enough time to finish. You want to touch this curb with the left tires and then go around this one. The car is gonna be a bit sketchy because after it hits that curb, the rear is gonna be a bit unsettled. However, this is one mistake which I do here that's 100% avoidable, and you will lose like half a tenth if you're gonna do it. So what I do here is I'm using this dip in the curb, and the moment that I touch it, so I was gaining time right now, but when I touch it, look what happens. So it's going down. So I lost almost 0.07, just by hitting that curb and the car bottoming out. So at this point, you should ask from the front tires just a bit more angle. If I would have turned a bit more, like 4 degrees, 5 degrees more, even though I would scrub a bit the tires, you won't lose that time. So a silly mistake here, but just notice that the car will bottom out in this curbing, so avoid it altogether. Now for the next corner, high speed corner, align yourself with this wall, not with the white line. Notice that you have just a bit of space to the left of the white line, so use all the track. You can touch this wall with your left tires and still you won't take damage if you will touch it laterally. So push yourself to use as much as possible at turn in, and then while turning, again, turn in with 100% throttle. And then when you're getting closer and closer, I'm doing a bit of lift, I'm adding just a bit of brakes to make sure that the front will have enough grip, and then I'm getting back on throttle. I won't recommend using this green part of the curb. I think the faster line is just following the white line on this curb and then using all this track. Now for the next corner, I use as a braking point the 50-meter board. You're gonna brake just slightly past it, so you can also see this change in tarmac. The moment that you cross it, you should apply the brakes, and then you can push the car a bit deeper into the corner while downshifting to third, because ultimately you want to use this banking to your advantage. So shoot it a bit higher up, and then you're gonna cut it in the lower part using all this track. But don't sometimes it depends on the setup. This car will bottom out depending on the setup if you go too much on the right side. I would avoid it, but in this lap I get pushed a bit too much. Ideally I would avoid it, but see what it works for yourself and for your setup. Now this section, it's a bit tricky. So this one is flat out, this one is flat out. Right here, the compromise is going as much as you can to the left side to open up, but it will be difficult to position your car to the far edge of the white line because you will miss the turning point. So everything happens quickly in this section. You will need to find a compromise, but the moment that you're gonna apply the brakes, you're gonna trail brake, and downshifting to third. I feel like this gives you the proper rotation in this corner. And then you just want to build up the throttle in a way that you will get pushed to this red sausage curve without touching it. This is gonna be key, because if you're gonna touch the curb, you will bottom out and you will get an off track. But if you don't use this white and blue curb, you will lose a lot of time. Now for this corner, I'm turning it mostly on feel. I don't want to use this green thing because it will push you too wide on the exit. So apexing at the white and blue curb and using all this exit space on the left side. Far from a perfect lap, but I think it's gonna be still a decent reference for you to learn from. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next week. Bye bye.